How's it going, people? Following a recent trend on my channel of political and philosophical videos, I thought I'd switch it up. I mean, after all, I do like to talk about the things that I enjoy on this channel. It just so happens that most of what I do enjoy talking about is politics and philosophy. And I do think it's important, of course. That's why I make those videos. But nonetheless, as you might have seen before, I've made a few music related videos, but today we're gonna go with something else I'm interested in, and that is sports. Now, before you click off, I'm not gonna be making any predictions or analytical videos. Unless you want me to, let me know. I'd be happy to. But that's not what today's video is. Today we're gonna be talking about soccer. And soccer is something that I've been growing passionate about for the last number of years now, and it's just rising and rising and rising. Aside from the fanatics, the hooliganism, and the tactics of soccer, which are just immaculate, if you follow them, you know what I mean. One of the most fascinating things about soccer for me is how it brings all these people from across the globe into one pitch, one field. My favorite team, Tottenham Hotspur, for example, has stars from South Korea, Uruguay, the Ivory Coast, and Denmark. That's 4 continents right there, just from 4 players. You can be watching a game in really any league and just pick out nations, and it's just fascinating how it really is the world's game. One of, if not the best parts of soccer is in fact when the World Cup rolls around every 4 years. If you're a soccer fan, you can remember a World Cup goal, a time where your nation won a game in the World Cup, anything along those lines. It really unites the world for a time, which I'll be touching on in just a bit. But in the World Cup, you can feel the tension as you watch. You can feel the passion that the players have while they play for their entire nation. It's just such an amazing time filled with soccer for about a whole month. The World Cup is nearing its beginning for this iteration, the 2022 iteration, and normally it would have happened by now in the summer, but that's for one very important reason. It's happening in the winter because it's in Qatar. And so, yes, I did trick you. This is a political video. In all seriousness, though, there's many glaring issues to Qatar hosting the World Cup. It's no secret that FIFA, the governing body of soccer or football, is corrupt, but I think I'd argue that Qatar hosting the World Cup this time is by far the biggest example of FIFA being corrupt. In 2010, Qatar won the right to host the World Cup in a bid, where everyone that wants to bids some sort of offer to FIFA, and that gave Qatar plenty of time to prepare for the World Cup. 12 years, in fact. Plenty of time to prepare, housing for the teams, an increase in tourism, yada yada yada.
Listen to this. Marcy comes over and she tells me that her ex-boyfriend was over late last night and yada yada yada, I'm really tired today.
There was one problem though. Qatar did not have a very good infrastructure in 2010. It was going to need to build many of these stadiums, pretty much everything that's required to host a World Cup. It ended up costing Qatar hundreds of billions of dollars to prepare for the World Cup. And oh man, those billions of dollars did not serve anyone well. There have been reports of workers being seriously exploited, obviously, and even down to the fact that workers would have to sign false statements that they earned their wages in order to get passports to go back home. And that's if they are even lucky enough to get back home. While there's no real concrete numbers as to how many perished during preparations to the World Cup, according to The Guardian, many of the work-related deaths that happened in Qatar would not have happened if Qatar was not hosting the World Cup, if you see where we're going. Now, this might not be a shock to you or anyone, as you might have heard about this before, but this news broke years ago, and it's not really at the forefront, especially as the World Cup's ramping up now. And the fact is that there's many more controversies too. If I were to go over all of them, this video would probably be many hours long. One controversy that I do think is important though is the broadcasting rights pertaining to America. You see, Fox won the right from FIFA for the broadcasting rights for the World Cup for the 2018 and the 2022 iterations. But Fox got all butthurt when Qatar had to move the World Cup from the summer to the winter. You see, Fox didn't care that Qatar was doing it out of pressure. Pressure being, would the players even be healthy if the World Cup was in the summer? Could they survive the heat? No. Fox was butthurt because the World Cup might clash with the NFL football season. In fact, Fox threatened to sue FIFA over this, and FIFA, not wanting to open up their books to possibly expose themselves to any more corruption, just simply gave Fox the 2026 World Cup broadcasting rights without hosting or entertaining any other bids from broadcasting companies. Just as a little sidebar, a lot of that is sourced from Richard Sandomir of the New York Times. So, citing my sources here, I didn't just come up with that. Just so you know, I might have gone off script and forgotten to mention that. As we are now seeing the aforementioned Fox and other media companies giving the hype for this World Cup headway, we aren't really talking about the many atrocities that have happened in the build-up to this tournament. Not everyone is dismissing this, of course, but I do follow a lot of soccer-related content and media, and I've sparingly seen discourse about the sort of turmoil in Qatar heading up to this, except for Tifo football. Not to get anecdotal, but they've done a good job. But even then, we aren't really trying to dig at the root issue here and ask ourselves questions about what should we do? Should we boycott? I mean, after all, the World Cup is something, like I've already said, that unites the world. It's estimated that over 5 billion people are gonna watch this World Cup, which is crazy to think about. That is a wide majority of the world that will all be united in this event. And if there's anything that could ever possibly make us realize, yes, we're watching this World Cup because we're all human, then that would be pretty cool. That might be the closest chance that we've got to the recognition that at the bottom line, we are all human. Anyways, a few countries like Norway, for example, were going to boycott the World Cup but didn't qualify. And then there's been some other countries like Germany who said they were going to, but once they qualified, they sort of walked that back. And so we're faced with no real precedent here as to what to do. No sort of guiding hand as where should we go. And once again, for human rights issues, it's down to the average citizens, the average people, to decide what to do about such crazy atrocities that have happened. Like, I'll try to leave some links to what has happened because, like I've said, if you're going to force someone to sign a false statement that they got their wages when you didn't give them their wages just so they could go back home, just let that sink in. At the end of the day, I feel as if it's your prerogative as to how to confront a situation like this. But my question is, how much are we willing to forget for our own pleasure?